I've been here 3 times before now, and I've told my story, but I've left out the most important things. So today you're going to hear that. My background is I was born in Eustis, Florida. I went to school in Mount Dora, was raised in Mount Dora, to a middle-class family. But the one thing about my family was my father never wanted kids. He went to Korea when I was just before I was born, and he didn't even kiss my mother goodbye when he left. And he was gone for 3 years. I was raised by my grandparents during the 3-year period, and she was my guiding light, you might say, to Christianity and spirituality. And she tried to keep me focused. At a young age is where I learned about Jesus, and but didn't know him until later on in life. I struggled with 44 years of drug addiction and bipolar disorder. I'm a former police officer for the city of Apopka. Spent 5 years there, and I was a CDL truck driver since I was 24 years old. And my life seemed to be pretty normal, other than the fact I had that feeling that my father didn't want me growing up. And when I was 13, I started smoking weed and drinking. But I drank to excess, and I did everything to excess. I was a drug dealer by the time I was 14, 15 years old, selling drugs in high school. At about the age of 17, all the cops in Mount Dora knew who I was, and they were out to find out anything they could get on me to harass me. And one particular night, they stopped me on my motorcycle, and I had some weed in my pocket. It was a young rookie cop, and I was probably 100 pounds soaking wet. And he'd stopped me earlier in the night and wrote me a ticket and told me to go home. My driver's license said I lived at my mother's address, but I was living with my grandparents because I moved out from home because me and my father didn't get along. He was very abusive and physically abusive and mentally abusive to me, and things would have gone bad if I had stuck around. But anyway, the second time they stopped me that night, I was on my way home to my grandparents, but they put me in a patrol car, and before that they put me in there, I told them, I'm not going to go with you until I walk over here for a minute. I told them I had to go to the bathroom. Anyway, I had weed in my pocket. I stashed the weed. I walked back over, and he wanted to handcuff me. I said, no, you're not going to handcuff me. I said, you're not going to take the motorcycle. I'm taking it with me. So I got in the car. They took me down to the station, and they wouldn't tell me what they were going to do with me. And they started driving over towards Eustis, and I didn't know what they were doing. I said, y'all better tell me what you're doing. And they just told me to sit back and shut up. I busted both windows out of the patrol car, and I was reaching around trying to get the driver that was driving the car. And they were actually taking me to the Waterman Hospital to put me in the mental section of that hospital. I got there, I calmed down because I saw 6 cops already beating me with nightsticks. So I got out on the ground and let them handcuff me and put me in, and take me inside. But as soon as they cut me loose, I knew I was a patient at the hospital, and I was slinging cops every which way but loose. And they ended up putting me in a padded cell in a straitjacket and locked me up hands and feet. While I was in there, I broke the straps and tried to pull an orderly through the door, a little picture window that they feed you through. And they called them back down there and had to strap me up again. And ended up in the juvenile shelter. And I spent 3 days there, and on Sunday morning, a Baptist preacher came in there, and I gave my life to the Lord at that time, and it was an encounter. It was not just saying it, but he touched me like a lightning bolt hit me. But for whatever reason, I couldn't continue to walk in the way I should have walked, and I kept doing drugs. At the age of 19, I went to a friend of mine who had already given his life to the Lord. He'd been walking it for a good while. and trying to get me out of the drug scene. And he took me to a Pentecostal tent revival in Apopka. And it was something I'd never experienced before, because there was a lot of speaking in tongues and laying on of hands and people slain in the spirit, laying on the floor, rolling around. And that was all new to me, and I didn't understand what was going on. Well, they invited us to a water baptism at Rock Springs, Kelly Park, the next morning. I invited my grandmother, and my friend George came with me, and these people from this congregation came also. And this is the one thing about my life I'll never forget. We were in the water about waist deep. And they were in a circle, and I was in the circle with them. And they were praying, and they were speaking in tongues, which I didn't understand what was going on, what they were saying. And someone else would say interpret what was being spoken. And during that time, I was really seeking the Lord and trying to really know who and what he was all about. And I saw a vision, but it was as if I see you. And there was a cloud around us, just where we were, like a fog early in the morning. And it was just where we were, and I smelled a smell. All I can say is all the flowers combined. And I didn't understand it, but it lasted. It seemed like I was kind of like an out-of-a-body experience. I wasn't drunk. I wasn't high. I hadn't been drunk for high for a couple days. And when we left, I asked my friend George, I said, "Did you see that fog around us?" He said, "No, I didn't see it." And I asked him if he smelled that smell around us. He said, "No, I didn't smell it." But what it turned out to be was the glory of God. They call it the Shekinah glory. Well, a week or so later, my buddy George finds me at the local Jiffy store with a can of Budweiser in my hand. And he's telling me, he said, "Brad, I feel something bad's going to happen to you. You don't change what you're doing." Well, it was within a day or so. I just got a job at Winn-Dixie, and I had a motorcycle. And I was heading out Wolf Branch Road, and a well drilling truck pulled out in front of me. And I saw him pull out. He was going about 25 miles an hour, so there's a passing zone. I was going to pass him. So I went around into passing, and he turned back the next driveway. I hit him in the side at 45 miles an hour. And if I had to hit either side of the wheels, it would have killed me, but I hit the wheels of that truck. Broke my right leg and tore up my left knee, and I was disabled for 6 months. And the first thing that happened when I got to the hospital, some nurse woke me up when I woke up and told me Jesus loved me. So I've been searching the Lord all my life. I've never been able to walk the walk like I should. I never understood why. I kept going back to drugs. Well, I've been married 6 times. I got 4 kids, about 5 different women. I've had 100 jobs in my life. It's not that I don't have the experience or the ability to do the job. It's just I don't do well with other people telling me what to do, or authority figures or such as that. I suppose that's because of my father and the way he treated me growing up. But I went into a drug rehab at the age of 29. I was a full-blown alcoholic. I was freebasing cocaine, and I was smoking as much as I could smoke. And I had already had cirrhosis of the liver starting at 29 years old. And I was in there with another kid that had lost his leg, and a car hit him. And he was riding a bicycle over in the Titusville area. He got a big settlement, and he blew it all in cocaine. Ended up in there with me. Well, they did that 12-step program thing. I just knew that wasn't for me. I knew my source was the Lord. Well, while I was in there, sometime during that 30-day period, I asked the Lord to deliver me of the drugs and alcohol. And I wanted to live a good and straight and narrow life He called me to live. And when I left there, I didn't do drugs for 6 years. Nothing. And I was so bad that I would bury it and dig it up the next day, or throw it away or buy more the next day. So it was an impossible feat for me to quit doing. But even though that 6-year period, I still, in and out of relationships, in and out of divorces, and was always flatlined, never happy and such. And it turned out that later down the road, I was diagnosed with bipolar disorder. And that's the reason that I lived a life off the chain, like a roller coaster with no brakes. I've never understood why I couldn't grasp, be like everybody else. I could understand that. So, I've been in and out of all kinds of relationships and struggled. They put me on all kinds of antidepressants and antipsychotics and these sort of things, and all the bad side effects, I wouldn't take them. So I've lost several relationships, my children, everything over it. But the worst thing that's happened since then, about 2 years ago, me and this wife I'm with now, I've been married to her twice. We've been together on and off for 10 years. Well, she has moved out on me maybe 23 times in 10 years. Completely moved out, got another place, and I keep bringing her back. And it's for a reason which is coming in the future, but I don't know. The only reason she's with me is because the Lord keeps us together for something that's to come now. So, but I went after her to go bring her home, and it got out of hand. And she had pulled out, she knew I was coming to find her where she was. I had a good idea about where she was. I wasn't going to do anything but to get her to come home, but it escalated, and I started chasing her in my truck. It got very reckless. Some guy on a motorcycle got involved, Harley Davidson, and he wanted to be the hero. Anyway, it was a mistake for him because I ended up almost killing the guy in a road rage incident. I slammed on the brakes when he was chasing me and made him crash his bike and totaled it out. He ended up in the hospital. I ended up in jail. Never been in jail for 35 years. Since I was 18 years old, I've been in jail. But I almost killed that guy, and it made me think, that I need to get a grip on my life, get my life in order. I didn't know how to do it. But the Lord has given me a second chance, and I found a product, this all-natural vitamin supplement that is helping me tremendously. I have not smoked any more weed, and I was on anxiety pills for about 10 years. I'm no longer taking those, and He's calling me to a higher calling to walk in the ministry and tell my story and tell everyone about the Lord and what He's done for me and what He's doing now. I'm a work in progress, and it's a day-by-day thing, but I know He's with me. He's here now. And He wants people like me or anyone that's struggling with drugs and alcohol or that's unhappy in their own lives to know that there is hope beyond what you can imagine. That He's always with us. And He's here for you now. All you have to do is be willing to accept Him into your heart, because there's no promise of tomorrow. Just know that. I've almost been killed 10 times, I know. Car wrecks, motorcycle wrecks, almost OD on cocaine twice. I drank myself into alcohol poisoning twice. I was in a self-destruct mode, not trying to kill myself, but subconsciously maybe, we did drugs to the extreme to see if we would wake up the next day. And that's the life I've led. He's kept me around for a good reason. I'm a work in progress, and it's going to be a day-by-day struggle for me, but I have hopes that the finished product is going to be something that's going to glorify Him. And that's my story.
Brad, hold up. Any questions for Brad?
What do your kids have to say about all this?
They don't understand the bipolar issue. That's what's caused me to go off the chain. That's what's caused me to not be able to function normally. My life has been abnormal, never been normal. I don't know what normal is. I'm not normal.
Are your parents living anymore?
My mother's alive. My dad's dead. He was an atheist. He died, and his life is an eternal fire, fortunately for him. I tried to reach him before he died, and he wouldn't listen to me. But I've had 4 family members that I've led to the Lord. The last one was my grandfather, who was 93. And 2 weeks before he died, I led him to the Lord, and he died. And he's with Jesus now.
You want to mention the attacks you've been getting, trying to keep you from coming here?
Satan has been trying to, I'm a marked man. He's been trying to take me out since the day I hit the planet.
Me too.
He is always my adversary. He tried to kill me 3 weeks ago in a car crash. And it's the more I try to get away from that lifestyle, the worse he attacks. But I am protected under the blood.
Speak over.
Yes, sir.
I heard you say something about you were taking some supplement or vitamin.
Yes, called Empower Plus.
Okay. Are you still taking your bipolar meds still?
No, I don't take any psychotic medications whatsoever. But what it does, they think bipolar disorder is derived from a vitamin deficiency. And the guy that developed this, his wife committed suicide, and both his children had bipolar disorder. And he and a friend had a vitamin supplement for farm animals, and they noticed that in these hog farms, these pigs would get very aggressive with each other and fight and all this. And they used these vitamin supplements, and that calmed everything down. And due to that, the two of them together derived some vitamin supplement for bipolar people that keeps me from doing drugs. It keeps me level. It keeps me, I don't even think about smoking weed. I smoke Crip every day for the past 8 or 10 years. Every day, all day. And I don't even think about it anymore. But that's the whole thing. I have to take care of myself. I have to realize I am bipolar, and the only thing I have to be responsible and do what I'm supposed to do, or I will revert right back to where I came from. Yes.
You said you don't really have a relationship